All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich Celenza. Thanks for checking out my channel. So what I want to get into today is lifting heavy weights. And if you're somebody who's been working out for a long period of time, it's time to maybe accept that lifting heavy weights may be something of your past. I turned 50 this year, and I've been lifting weights for a majority of my life, starting basically hardcore from like 12 years old. But I really was in a gym at like 5 years old, working out. But when I really started to take it serious was around 12 years old, and I never stopped lifting weights. And the one thing that I was always obsessed with, which I think a lot of us are when we're younger, is lifting heavy weights and trying to get as strong as possible, as big as possible. And then if you're playing different types of sports, it could relate to being as fast or getting as quick as possible, or whatever type of sport you're doing. You know, you want to excel and be the best, or try to get the most out of every single workout, right? But I'm here to tell you, when it comes to weights now, and this is mainly for guys that are middle-aged, I'm going to be honest with you, but if you're younger, I would like you to listen to this too, because I think there's a lot to learn here. I was very fortunate because I was bouncing between Chicago and Florida, and I was working out in gyms in Florida that had some of the strongest wrestlers in the country, bodybuilders, powerlifters, a lot of steroids, a lot of football players as well. And the one thing I learned, I learned a lot on how to lift heavy weights, let's just say, what worked and what didn't work. Because back then, I mean, you had some shows on ESPN, everything was more or less driven off magazines like Flex, Muscle Fitness, Muscular Development, there's Powerlifter magazines, but I was actually able to actually work out with a lot of these guys. Even world champion arm wrestlers, for instance, and all these different types of people. And how much I learned at a very young age, starting at about 15 years old. And I was very fortunate too, because I had, my father and mother gave me incredible genetics. Truthfully, I never took steroids, but as time went on, I just started to excel. And I think one of the reasons I excel is because I never stopped, and I was very consistent, because when I was younger, I was always the smallest guy. I even graduated high school at about 135 pounds. Before you know it, a year and a half later, I'm 220 pounds, and I literally went from bench pressing, say, 185 pounds for, 5 to 7, and now I'm 21, 22 years old, bench pressing 225 for 25 to 30 times, and I would work my way up to 450 pounds. My legs in my mid-20s got really strong. I was squatting 500 pounds for reps. Anybody who knows me knows that. Deadlifting a lot of weight for numerous amounts of reps and sets. Curling up to 185 pounds, leg press 1,500 pounds. And what was interesting was I wasn't even nearly the strongest guy in the gym. So many guys were a lot stronger than me and many different types of things, but I ended up becoming one of the strongest guys in the gym naturally. The only reason I didn't take steroids, I've talked about this in the past, is because I don't like needles and I'm afraid of pills. If you could eat food and take steroids, I probably would have been an animal, but those two things, I just was afraid, I didn't trust them. But I'm going to tell you something here now. As I'm getting older, and I see a lot of this with my old friends, especially the gym rats I grew up with, is one thing I learned in my 40s, I just started to back up on the weight. And I just could tell, for one, I had to back up just on, I was always like 230 to 250 pounds. I felt like a piece of shit. But the thing was, I was still lifting heavy weights even into my 40s. And I still lift probably heavier than most people I know my age, or a lot heavier. But the one thing I started to realize at 40 years old was, one, what I was doing to my body, my tendons, my joints, my muscles. And I wasn't a bodybuilder. I wasn't a power lifter. So I wasn't obsessed with doing this for shows or making money or any of those type of things. It was just a personal, I guess you could say, voyage I was on, trying to get as big as I wanted to get. I wanted to be 260 my whole life, even as a little boy. I don't know why I picked that number. I really wanted to be 260 to 300, but then I realized the bigger I got and the heavier I got, the shittier I felt. But if you're somebody who's lifting a lot of heavy weights, right, still middle-aged, and I get it, we all still like to do it. I just saw an older dude, probably in his 60s, squatting some, moderately decent heavy weight, using reps and all that thing, and maybe he competes, maybe he doesn't, and maybe that's just the type of workout he likes to do. I'm here to tell you, be very aware of that. Most of my friends that lifted heavy weights, especially the ones that didn't do it correctly or that weren't consistent on and off, they're hurt, they're damaged, they have a lot of issues, especially going on 50 and 60 years old. Their lower backs, their neck, and I've had shoulder injuries, their legs, their ankles, their knees, their hips. There's so many problems there. So one of the reasons, like I was saying earlier, I want somebody younger watching this is please be aware of this. And I have nothing against people wanting to push themselves, kicking in the ass. But please, sometimes you have to look down the line. I really wasn't one of those people. I thought I was going to be strong and indestructible forever, or truthfully, I thought I would pass away at 30 or 40 years old. I just felt like I wouldn't live as long as I did. But I'm here to tell you, if you do live long, the key really to living, a long, healthy life is not getting injured and taking care of your body, all right? And there are times, again, where we want to be jacked, we want to be big, we want to be strong, which is wonderful. Just make sure you're doing it the right way. Learn how to work out correctly. That goes for any type of working out or anything physically related, anything that you do related to physical fitness. Please make sure you're doing it correctly. There's more knowledge now than ever. I didn't even have a lot of knowledge on what was being done right or wrong, except like I was saying, magazines or by talking to people. But nowadays with YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all this, all these different outlets, you can really start to learn what works and what doesn't, all right? But here's the one thing I'm gonna also say is, to the guys that keep lifting weights that are, if you're lifting weights, right, at a certain age, middle age, you're not doing a show or competition, and you're kind of doing it for more ego reasons, and I get that. A lot of times you just don't want to let it go. We don't want to let our past go. It's almost like our past go. We're chasing our past. We don't want to even accept our age, and I get that, right? But I'm going to tell you right now, even in my 40s, I realized my strength, I lost probably just in my 40s for a couple of years there, probably over 50% of my strength. There was no way I was going to continuously keep trying to bench press over 400 pounds for reps. My body just wasn't doing it. Squatting too. I've done so many hundreds of thousands of squats, literally curls, bench presses, all these. Your body wears down, okay? That's just a reality of life. Does that make me weaker? Sure, it makes me weaker from the sense of not being able to lift weights, but it didn't. When I started to make this shift, I actually started to feel better. And lifting moderate weight instead of extremely heavy weight and putting constant, really extreme pressure and tendons on or extreme amounts of tension, I guess you could say, on my muscle joints and tendons. It just changed. Everything changed. And it wasn't for the worse, it was for the better. So if you're, again, someone who's caught up with the heavy weights, start making some changes. I promise you, you're not going to be able to lift extremely heavy weights or keep up with your past heading into your 60s, 70s, and 80s. That doesn't mean you have to stop working out. That doesn't mean that you're not strong. That's all bullshit. It's in your head, all right? And I get sometimes with a lot of us guys who work out who are big and strong, like we get deflated. Like people see you and they're like, oh man, you lost a lot of weight. Or man, you're not nearly as big as you used to be. Oh wow, he doesn't lift weights like he used to, he's not as strong as he used to be. I work out with tons of different people. And a lot of them, younger, even whatever the case, I work out with the weight they work out with just to kind of keep it consistent. Sure, a lot of times I could lift more, but I'm not competing with them. And I'm always competing with myself, but now I'm at the point where I want to compete for health and longevity. So I just thought I would do a video on this because I just don't want middle-aged guys, and this is some of my closest friends, literally have so many problems I can't explain. Very similar to if you look at a lot of professional athletes. I mentioned this on my other YouTube videos, right? You look at other athletes, you may not know this, but a lot of athletes that played all different types of sports, or even powerlifters, bodybuilders, whatever the case may be, even runners, experts in their field, as they got older, their bodies are destroyed because they kept pushing themselves, which is wonderful, but there comes a point where are you hurting yourself or helping yourself, right? So please think about that. Don't get obsessed with the weights all the time. I just did a video on this. Don't get so emotional when working out. A lot of us who've been working out for many, many years, you go to the gym, you start off warming up, you're not as strong or you don't feel as good as you used to. And this may be going on and on and on. You may be falling in a rut. Switch things up. And I think that's what a lot of people have to look at, including myself. People that have worked out with weights for almost a half a century or whatever the case may be, it may be time to try yoga. It may be time to do other things. I always swam and kept active doing other things as well. But just please pay attention to this. And lifting heavy weights it's just not always the answer. I know you may think it is, it probably isn't. It may have been at that point in time when you were younger and you enjoyed it and you loved it, but it may be time to leave that in the past. All right, I'm just telling you for health reasons. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. You get a chance, check out my podcast, The Rich Celenza Show. WTF are you talking about? I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter as well, all right? So if you get a chance, subscribe, and please don't hurt yourself. Middle-aged men and women, stop getting caught up with your past. I'm telling you, all right? Let's just start looking to the future. All right, take care, and if you're traveling, safe travels.